Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots.com, and today we're going to make this cutie. Boop. If you'd like to make him, just stick around. Please like this video so I know you're here crafting. So this guy is actually made no sew or sew, it doesn't matter, and it is a mathematical pattern, which means I'm going to give you measurements and options. So as you can see, we are creating a very scrunchy hat with a nice little flip over to the side, an easy body, and we have a lot of options. So I'm going to teach you how to make this using this particular one. However, we can make this any size. So today I'm going to be sharing a hot glue version of this. I will also share how to sew this body. So what I'm going to do here is you can see 12.5 inches. We're going to do by 6 inches tall. It's going to make a very wide body. So if you like those chunky short guys, this is the body. I will put some measurements down in the description below about my other ones that I'm doing this for. So I love this particular body style because you can make it short and chunky or tall and lean. It doesn't matter. The box bottom is going to be what really gives us the stability. So I'm just going to pair it with a white fleece hat. This is flannel. There is no stretch. Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing the hot glue version for this, but we'll also show how to do the sew. So hot glue, all you're going to do is put right sides together and glue along the very bottom half. This needs to be lined up fairly accurately. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it isn't mostly straight at the bottom, use your scissors and cut it off. That's it. Don't fret. This is real time. There will be obvious portions that I have sped up in this video, which is something like doing something repetitive, or in the case of the hat, I went through a whole lot more fur colors than I'll show you, but for the most part, you will be expected to be done within 20 minutes, a full gnome, whatever size gnome you decide to do. As you can see, I'm gluing up this far right side, but I'm leaving about 1 inch to 1.5 inches open at the top. That is going to matter. All right, so you do want to make sure that that is secure before you move on. When we're dealing with cotton or flannel, you don't have to wait very long. If you are dealing with fleece, you do have to wait a little bit more as that glue seeps into those fibers just to make sure you don't pull anything apart. As you can see, other than this little top part up here, I'm pulling and making sure that these seams do not come undone. When I lay it down on the table, you'll see if I flip up that seam that we created along the bottom, we have a nice diamond. All we're going to do is take these two seamed edges and we're going to glue them down. So about 1 inch down, and that is 1 inch from the edge of the fabric, not from the edge of that extra fabric from our seam. So you're looking for the point on the edges, not just the extra fabric. All right, so you will want to make sure these are secure. You don't have to hold it until it dries. You can just flip it around and do the other side. You don't even have to flip it like that. You can just flip it up. But you can see I'm going to secure down this flap down here. And then I'm just going to do the exact same thing where I fold this in. That's it. And you can go a little bit more than 1 inch. I don't recommend it on something this small, but when you're working with something as big as a purse, for example, it doesn't matter. You can go a little deeper. But for this, we're going to show you the same thing. You can use 2 pieces of fabric as well, like this is. You're just going to make the same little pocket. So whether you have 2 sides sewn or glued or 3 sides sewn or glued, you still have an opening. And then you're going to flatten out that opening to get the diamond. And you're going to find 1 inch from the top of the fabric, not from that folded over piece of fabric, right? You're where the 2 points meet. And then you're just making a mark here, 1 inch away, and then you're going to sew along that 1 inch. You can cut those 2 pieces off or just tuck them in like this. Either way, the weight and the filling will hold it down. But you see that? Look at the beautiful little box bottom. We're going to get the same thing when we flip this one out. So after it's dry, we're just going to pick it up and flip it out. I will show you the difference between the sewn version and the hot glued version, but just know whether or not you want to do either, you'll be fine. So you can fill it with maybe a third, it's not even a third, it's probably a quarter of weight, and then stuff the rest. I do have a scraps bag. As you can see, I'm working on some patterns because that pale pink is something I always use for my patterns. I save them and then I use some fluff, polyfill stuffing. You can use any weight in the bottom. I'm using poly pellets, but you can also use small gravel, rocks. You can use rice in a bag. It doesn't matter. All right, so now I'm going to use a needle and thread and do a running stitch. That means in and out, in and out, in and out with no knot or tie off on the other end. Just be sure not to pull this. Can you use a rubber band? Yeah, you can just gather it up, put it in a rubber band. If you do use a rubber band, I highly recommend also securing it with some string because the rubber band could fail over time. Now, if you are sewing it to this little point, make sure you come out right next to where you started, and then you just stuff all this stuffing inside and give it a tug. That's it. Just make sure you get a squishy, make sure all your stuffing doesn't jump out like that one did, and then you're good. We're good to tie it up. I just create a couple of knots. I go around again and create a couple more knots. I think this is the thing for me. Have I ever had anyone fail this way? No. Have I ever had a rubber band fail? Yes. So I think that's why for me, this is always the easier version. But if you do not want to hand sew, you have arthritis, don't worry about it. Grab a rubber band, but be sure to secure it with something else. Something preferably kind of rough like twine will work. And then I just throw it down, making sure it stays up. So you can see I have a lot of these to make. So I am doing verticals, I'm doing horizontals, I'm doing different sizes. So I will share some other hats, but today I want to do the bigger one. You can see we just made this round little chunky one, and that is because we went very wide versus very high. Now for the bottoms, these two were sewn and this one was made with hot glue. You can see the hot glue has like little openings. The box pleat bottom when sewn does not. And that's really the only difference. They're built the same exact way, okay? They're as secure as you can make them. So you see that little opening right there? I think it's cute because it gives a little dimple. Okay, so I'm going to cut off my selvage edge. This is cheap fleece. This is white polar fleece from Joann's craft store. We are putting the stretch on the horizontal. This is where our brim is going to be. How do we determine our hat size? You take a piece of string, you take a seamstress ruler, or whatever this is called. I don't know what it's called, a flexi ruler, and you go around where you want your brim of your hat to be, and you add a half of an inch. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. So mine is 12. I add 0.5. So I know with folded fabric, I need 6 1/4 inches. So let me make that a little bit smaller. Biggity bam, 6 1/4. Now for the height, you can do anything you want, but as a general rule, never make the hat shorter than the height of the body that you see. So I know that's weird, but like if you're putting your hat halfway down the body, and your piece is 12 inches high, never make the hat less than 6 inches. It looks kind of wrong. So on this one, my body is 12 inches high, so I'm going to make the hat 12 inches high. I'm going to be showing a different hat for each of these. And I'll just tell you, this one is a cute little way. I had somebody ask me, how do you get a scrunch without any wires? And I'm going to show you. It's super simple. So now what we're going to do is we're going to leave it folded, right? And then we're going to measure up 2 inches from here at the bottom. If you're making a hat less than 6 inches tall, you measure just 1 inch, and that'll give us a nice little rise. This will allow the hat to be pulled down a little farther in the back, and it will allow a little scrunch to happen in the back without you having to do anything. At the top, always cut no smaller than a 1/2 inch because we're going to turn this right side out. Speaking of right side out, if this is our pretty side, I want to flip it to the ugly side and make a brim. How do we do that? We just turn it up by a 1/2 inch or so and glue it down. If you are sewing, obviously you can sew this brim and then sew along where we're going to glue. All right, so again, this is real time. You can see I'm making this. No, there's no speeding up of the actual crafting part. We're going to flip it over, put right sides together and secure at the bottom and the top, and then just squish it all in the middle. So I am making quite a few of these I prefer the sewn versions because I am so much faster with the sewing machine than I am with the hot glue. But if you don't have a sewing machine or you don't like sewing, don't worry. All of this can be done with the hot glue gun, as you can see. If you're sewing, you're going to add your brim and then you're just going to sew up all the way from the bottom around the curve all the way up to the top. Be sure to go across the top ½ inch as well to secure that, and be sure to reverse your stitches to lock them in place. All right, now this has to dry. This is fleece, so I'm going to leave this aside and start looking at my fur options for beards or braids or whatever. That's really bad. That I like. I also have white on my table, this pale pink and a bright pink, which I will probably use on one of them. All right, so once we've let that fleece dry, we're going to push this portion all the way through. Now, you can use a pencil. I prefer the rounded edge of my scissors. I had a question on that. This is the rounded edge. Don't go the other way because you can just randomly poke right through the top. Just go slowly and look. It just pops out. There you go. A little bit. Done. You can add a bell. You can add a tassel, whatever. All right, I'm not going to add any of that because I have to coordinate all three of these in a bit. All right, so, or four of them. I don't even know how many I made now. Now we're going to get an idea for the beard and where the nose is going to go. Again, it's going to look something like that. So by the way, you can scrunch up like this and you can sew little stitches to hold those scrunches in. That seems like a lot of work to me, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you how to cut faux fur. If you're not new to this channel, I'm so sorry. If you are new to this channel, hi, my name is Sarah. Let me know your name down below in the comments. I'm using an X-Acto knife. And that's how I'm measuring. Yep, with my fingers, it's totally accurate. I'm just going to cut the backing of the faux fur only. Okay, that's it. You can just see it barely scraping the surface. See that? And that way we don't cut through. Can you cut faux fur with scissors? Yes, I'm too lazy and I'm much too busy for all that. So this is the easiest way, the fastest way. And now I'm just going to put it in place and go grab nose options. I have two different kinds of wood beads that I like to use, a full and a half back. You can do anything. You can also change the sizing. You don't have to do what I do. You can make clay noses. You can make fabric noses. Either way, whatever you want. I'm going to add an obscene amount of hot glue to the back of the faux fur. Be sure not to get it in the front of the faux fur. It's kind of hard to get out. Pop that on, making sure it's even, and press it down. So you can make sure the whole thing is even by just looking at where the point is. I'm too lazy to go get the brush, so here we go. Little fingernail brushing, and look, good as new. Now we are going, I don't know what those finger movements were. That was weird. Please don't judge me. Okay, so now we're going to find the point of center, and we're just going to split the fur to the fabric backing. That's a lot of F's in one sitting. We're going to add a good portion of hot glue, and then listen, don't be scared. Press hard. Swoosh it down there. That's not hard enough. We need a good press. Good press. Squish it harder. There we go. Squish it. All right, there we go. That's done. Moving on. Well, I don't know why I showed you. Just making sure all these are down. Okay, now for the hat. Scoosh on the hat. Now, you can also trim that little piece up at the top. I prefer not to. You can also, by the way, tuck it in when you are closing up the body. Again, you can scrunch this down and glue it all in place. I think the glue fails over time, so especially if you're selling or giving like these are, I am going to show you an easy way to do this without wires. By the way, this hat is not going to be connected because they will be interchangeable. So you'll see why I'm doing it like this. I pull down, I scrunch, and I figure out how tall I want this little overlap to be. I'm going to go in through the bottom with the knotted thread. So that's going to catch down here. And then I'm going to do a running stitch. Remember that one? The in and out, in and out, in and out. It's the same thing here. You'll see it. At one point, I absolutely mess up and I was absolutely too busy to go back and fix it, but no one will be the wiser. So what happens is this part will stay down, and when you pull the string, it scrunches up so lovely. I'll keep my little rando voices to a minimum. Do you do that when you're by yourself, like talk in a British accent for random things like, oh, it's time to chop the vegetables or whatever? Please tell me I'm not alone. Maybe don't admit it in the comments. You can send me an email. But I'm one of those people who'd be like, I tell my daughter, Please wash the dishes, but I'll say it in any accent just to make it more fun. All right, so I'm scrunching, I'm pulling, I'm seeing where I want my little drop. Now, I'm going to make sure that that's down when I'm doing that, but I'm going to keep going a little bit. You can see I fast forwarded that, and you can see the little scrunches when I pull, scrunchy doodle. Scrunch it over on this side, and now I'm going to secure this. And to secure it, I'm sorry, I'm trying to change the angle. I'm going to figure out where it falls, and then I'm going to go right into the side of the hat. That's it. I'm going to pull that tight, make sure it's on there. And you can move it around. It doesn't have to be sort of pointing where I wanted it, but I'm just going to do that a couple times, make sure I get a knot in there. And now I'm going to make sure I can hide the thread by, you can do this into the body as well, but I'm just going to show you because it's easier here. Just straight through, press the entire gnome down and cut when it's pressed down. And look, bam, she's done. Well, they're not decorated yet, but now you can go ahead and glue this hat down if you would like. I am not going to be gluing mine down. That is it for this guy. I mean, I hope that was helpful in giving you a no pattern gnome. It's just a mathematical gnome. I'll put the measurements down below. If you have any more ideas for hats you'd like to see, let me know down in the comments. I appreciate you being here. Please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more crafty fun.